I just tried a bunch of stuff. I was on bodybuilding forums all the time trying to figure out how to learn about bodybuilding and how to get stronger. And then it eventually became, this is what works best for me. And I still train essentially the same exact way I did when I was 16. Smarter, but I do a lot of the same. Like, I don't overcomplicate it. I do the same shit almost every time. That works for me.
I want to have the most meaningful life possible. And I think the more narrow you get in your where you invest your time and effort, I think the bigger impact you can actually have. It's fascinating. It's when you split the atom, you get the atom bomb. That metaphor. The more narrow my focus has become, the more impact I've been able to have in the world.
Next Level Nation, welcome back to another episode of Next Level University, where we help you level up your life, your love, your health, and your wealth. Today, for episode number 1951, everything matters, but not the same amount.
Another long sleeve today, Kev.
Back-to-back days with a long sleeve. Shout out to my mother-in-law. Shout out to Taryn's mom. She got me this for Christmas. Local company.
Is that a Burton? What is it? Oh, Brunt.
No, it's called Brunt.
Brunt.
Local company. Very
nice.
Cool. I dig it. So before this, Alan said, hey, is there a question that we could ask that would make for a really good episode? He said, you're the creative guy. Make a question. Come up with a question. I said, all right, let me think for a second. See what I can come up with.
Question guy, man.
I'm supposedly the question guy. And this is the question that I thought of. And it was a terrible question, but I'm going to say it the way I said it, and then we'll make sure we clarify. What's the one thing that without it, you would lose the vast majority of your results? / what's the one thing that is most responsible for the results you have in your life, in your business, in your relationship, whatever it is. It could be anything. My answer is simple. It's boring. It's not going to be a surprise. Do you want to guess what it is?
This podcast.
And?
Oh, whoa. It's not this podcast?
No, I'm not. Look, one of the things that I've been called is humble. Last thing I can say is I can't do that. No, not this podcast. This podcast blows. I'm kidding. This is my favorite podcast in the world, obviously.
Yeah, it is. It is really good.
That's not it, though. Wrong.
All right, what is it?
Self-awareness.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Like, you didn't know that. I'm like a broken record.
Well, there's categories. Self-awareness is a principle. It's a
look.
Person's, places, things, and ideas. No, I know.
Come up with a question. I may answer the question as I wish, as you may answer the question as you wish.
Self-awareness. It's pretty good.
Is my answer. Yeah.
Strong work. Wouldn't you say that this podcast, more than anything else, has increased your self-awareness?
Well, yes, but my self-awareness didn't start with the podcast.
Where did it start?
Man. I think it just started from a place of curiosity. And again, before I had remember I did a video on Facebook in 2016 or whatever it was. You don't deserve to be happy, you deserve what you work for. And I that was me working on self-awareness. That was me working on philosophy. So that existed before the podcast. I just didn't have a vehicle for it yet. I think I would say the more self-aware I've become, the better my life has gotten. And without that, none of this would have happened.
Self-awareness is the principle. The vehicle for that, more than anything else, has been the podcast.
I would say that, yes.
And I do think you need... So, for example, learning. That's high level. My answer could be learning. But that's very broad. Okay, well, what's the biggest source of learning? So this question, you can go deeper. Zoom in. Microscope, telescope. So the question is, I'm going to rephrase the question to what my brain says.
Let's see how it goes.
All right. My brain says, what's the one variable in the equation that if you took it out, it takes away 90% of the results?
Not terrible.
Okay. The one thing that if you took out of the formula, gets rid of 90% of the results.
Yeah, are you stalling? You have an answer?
Well, I want to categorize it.
Okay.
Okay, in fitness, the answer is weight training.
Mm.
In growth, personal growth, the answer is the mission. I used to say this quote, and I struggle to say it now because I think it's probably sounding dumb, but whenever people come to me and they say, I don't understand, like, how do you do all this? And the people who do that are other podcasters. Other podcasters look at what we do and they go, like, how do you, it's usually after or before. It's like, how do you do all this? Like, how do you not burn out with all this stuff you're doing? NLU, PGU, BGU, all this BGU we're still doing. But how do you not burn out? And I say a lot of the results that we've achieved are actually a byproduct of something far bigger that no one else can see. And this is going to be very courageous for me because I don't know if I like sharing this, but on my desktop background, it says to build the most successful holistic self-improvement company in history. That's the mission statement. That's the infinite game, that the mountain that gets higher as you climb it. And that's what we're doing. We're trying to build. And I think about this all the time. I wake up in the morning and I think, okay, build the self, build the family, build the business. Build the self, build the family, build the business. Okay, zoom in to build the self. Okay, fitness. And then zoom into fitness, sleep, hydration, nutrition, training, mobility, breathwork, supplementation. Okay, zoom back out. Build the self, personal development. Okay, books. Build the self. Okay, therapy. Okay, now zoom back out. Build the family. Emily and I's relationship. Okay, what about that? Courageous, vulnerable conversations, quality time, adventures, blah, blah, blah. Okay, now zoom back out. Build the business. Okay, build the team. Amy, Nicole, Laura, Ron, blah, 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 blah. Okay, and if there's anyone I forgot, I apologize. I didn't forget anyone. I just only said 4 people. And then you zoom back out, and it's build the self, build the family, build the business. That's how my brain works. It's everything's a formula within a formula within a formula within a formula within a formula. And there's very little things under each of those categories that actually move the needle in a big way. And the podcast is underneath Build the Business, and it's one of the most important leverage points within Build the Business. And I think that engineering way of thinking is really important, but I don't know if that's normal.
No. I'm so curious, like, what... You ever seen the movie? There's a bunch of them. Oh, we'll say Freaky Friday because the other one's not as
What a silly movie.
They're doing a new one.
Are they?
Yeah. Jamie Lee
That came
Curtis
out in
and
like early 2000s or something.
Lindsay Lohan. They're doing a reboot. Part 2. Part 2. I never saw the first one, but
Of course.
I just imagine if you and I Freaky Friday'd and I woke up as you and you woke up as me, how strange it would be.
Yeah, I've thought about that. Not in the Freaky Friday sense, but in the
What think?
Is it like to be him?
Sometimes the best. Most often the worst. Depends. It's definitely different. I say this all the time. I don't wake up and get pulled out of bed by the mission. That's not the way I'm wired. I'd be lying if I said that. I probably said that in the past because I thought that's what I was supposed to say. That's not the truth. I push myself out of bed every morning and stumble into my mobility routine. That's pretty much what I do every day. It's not that I want to do it necessarily, but I'm always grateful I did. And honestly, it's not that bad, right? Again, perspective, gratitude, reflection. There's a lot of things that go into that. So yeah, I just imagine what it's like for you. The first thing you think about when you wake up and the first thing I think about when I wake up. Oftentimes, the first thing I think about when I wake up is what I'm going to have for dinner. That's pretty often. Pretty often, especially when I'm dieting. But
well, you can always, whenever you... Sorry to interrupt you. Whenever you study someone, you observe them, and you can tell what their circle of concern is. We talked about this in the last episode. What are you worried about? What are you concerned about? You think too much, all that stuff. I can always tell what you're thinking about. Whenever I travel with Kev, I can tell what his concerns are. Number one concern is what do we have to get done today, and are we going to be on time with Alan's lazy ass? I'm joking. Are we going to be on time? How do I get Alan on time? Kev just looked at the camera and said, it's true. How are we going to be on time? And what do I need to do in advance to make sure we're on time? Number 2 is, what are we eating for dinner?
Always.
And number 3 is, where are we going to the gym, baby? Where are we weight training? And that's really nice because I can just offboard that. There's something known as cognitive labor. And in the business of NLU, I'm doing a lot of the cognitive labor. And you playfully joke and say, wherever Alan points or whatever. And again, we always, talk and strategize together too. It's not just me. But let me share this. Emilia sent me her sleep score earlier today.
What do we got? I'm going to guess 87.
Oh, nice. She sent me 91.
Ooh.
It's a good one.
Shout out.
It's a good one. NyQuil works wonders.
91. It just seems so unattainable for the kid.
It's brutal. Yeah, it's not easy. She is crushing. Dude, she gets 90s. I bet you her average is 85 plus. She beats me in sleep.
When is it too
I was
late?
The sleep master, man.
At what point in my life do I cross the chasm where it's like, Kev, it doesn't matter how much sleep you get, you've gone too far?
There is no point. No. Am I there yet? No, there is no point. So I got an 89. So what I said is brain health equals number one priority. So here's the problem with the word priority. Priority means the number one most important thing. So Emilia and I, we've thought a lot about our life and our future, and I know how weird we are. So I'm just saying that. But we thought about it and we're like, okay, what's the most important thing? Well, you got to ask yourself the question. You can't know what the most important thing is until you take it away and see the devastation. If you take away someone's brain, they are dead. Like the difference between, and this is going to probably sound pretentious and I'm saying this in advance, the difference between me now and me 20 years old is my brain. Last night I had tons of dreams. And I'm going to get my PhD in neuroscience one day, and I hope to prove this in my thesis. I want it to be on this. I'm convinced the reason why dreams are so fucked up is because it's the brain trying to restructure itself. Yesterday, we had a really heavy day. I was struggle bus, past, present, future, trauma, I think last night my brain had to work through some shit to restructure itself. The neuroscience shows chemical, functional, and structural changes in the brain. When Kevin and I first met, he couldn't hang in conversations like this nearly as long as he can now. He would shut down.
But what is that called? Is that called cognitive endurance? Isn't there a label for that?
Yeah, cognitive endurance, I think, yeah. And we went to a meetup once, and it was just a long day. And I remember, I'll never forget, we're in the hotel room, and he just shut down. It was over. Nothing left. It was full shutdown mode. It's we cannot go any deeper. This is the end. Kill switch. Kill switch comes out.
Self-preservation.
Yeah, turns over. He's done. Wakes up in the morning and drags out of bed. But ultimately, what's the one thing that changes everything? It's a great question, and I think it's brain health. Okay, well, now let's zoom into brain health. What's the most important thing for brain health? Sleep. Okay, so Emilia and I in 2025, our number one most important priority is getting great sleep. However, that's very challenging because when you run businesses, you obviously can't sleep 13 hours a day. You need to work. But that's why conflicting goals and conflicting priorities are such a challenge. If you really want variety, so it's winter time, Emilia doesn't like the winter, we haven't been going on many adventures, and I can tell it's getting to her. And we're using little things, she is wearing different clothing for her variety. She's trying to meet her need for variety in other ways. Different foods, different clothing, whatever we can do. And I can't wait for spring so we can actually start adventuring and fitness and hiking and adventure racing and stuff. But my point of this whole thing is I hope everyone out there can start thinking about what is it that I value? What is it that I'm focused on? And what are the things that I value that are in direct conflict? If you value earning more money and yet you value adventure simultaneously, it's very hard to adventure while making money. And I think it's important to prioritize one over the other in whichever season.
Well, yeah, it's adventuring might be easy for you. Making money might be somewhat easy for you, but yeah, doing them at the same time it's just there's a smaller circle of opportunity. Doesn't mean you can't do it. Right? I know you and I have interviewed people that were nomads that made that their job. It's possible, but possible and probable, and the percentage of that are just different.
For sure.
Some would say, I have a really good date idea for you and Emilia.
Talk to me.
Are you open to hearing it? I can't say it too
Absolutely.
loud because I'm going to do it for Taryn, but I haven't done it yet. Have you have you and Emilia done an adventure room yet? Like an escape room?
I think she took me to one
You have no idea?
years ago, maybe, or was that my ex?
Well, first of all, let's hash it out here.
Yeah, that
Probably a
was
good
my ex.
idea.
No,
I feel like
I
I
don't
feel like
think
you
I've
guys
done it
would.
with
I
Emilia.
feel like you guys would love it.
There's one in Worcester that we did. I think that was. I don't think that was Emilia. No, I don't think Emilia and I have.
That's the play.
Yeah, I think that would be. It
I feel
has
like
to
you
be
got-
nature. The
Oh, no,
adventure
it's
doesn't
not.
count if it's not in nature.
Oh, well, you're going to
That's
be using your
Emilia's
brains.
10 out of 10 is nature.
You're going to be
she's
using your
like-
brains, though.
Well, maybe we'll do one that's near nature.
It's that. I mean, that's like quite. No,
What
it's
do
going
you
to be
mean?
Jurassic Park. No, no, it's inside in a dark room with a locked door.
No, I know, but like if it's one that's up in New Hampshire near the mountains,
Oh,
I can.
oh.
It can do like coffee. Dude, this is great strategy. Go a little coffee, get some.
Be Jurassic. We're just going to drop you in Jurassic Park. Good luck, bro. Good luck.
eggs. Yeah.
My question for those watching or listening is, what's the one thing? What's the one thing for you? And have you given it? For some reason, my eyes are leaking. Have you given it the credit that it deserves? Are you actually aware of the one thing?
Why are you acting like we're getting out of here? Do you not know that we have 25 minutes?
No, I'm the host. I'll do what the freak I want.
You're like acting like we're getting out of
No,
here.
no.
For those of you out there, that's
No,
my
I just-
question for you.
that
You
was
didn't
just
start the
me-
wrap up right there?
No.
Oh.
No. That was my next. That's where I wanted to go. Now I got to do an entire reshoot because actor number 1 doesn't know his freaking lines. Extra number 1 doesn't know his lines. No, because I don't know if. I mean, how many times have you and I had this conversation behind the scenes? I'm very aware of what the number 1 thing is. Very aware. But you and I, going back to last episode, also have kind of built a business out of it. So it makes total sense why it's the number 1 thing. If you said, what are number 2, 3, 4, and 5, I've never really thought about those.
Yeah.
So I would have to sit down and really. I don't care. I care about what's the number 1 thing.
Yeah, you are
If
good at that.
if number
good at
1
that.
makes up 80% of it, I don't really care what 2 through 5 are. Honestly.
We should teach the Pareto a little bit.
Okay,
Wilfredo
I'm
Pareto.
gonna I'll let you do it.
You got this.
I learned it from you. I don't know if I ever looked. Okay, there was a gentleman named Wilfredo Pareto. Shout out to Wilfredo's mom for naming him that. He was a pea farmer. Okay? Just planting peas, growing peas, harvesting peas, all about the peas. And eventually, Wilfredo, Mr. Pareto himself, realized that 20% of the pea plants accounted for 80% of the pea yield. So 20% of the plants provided 80% of what he was getting. And then somehow that became a law. And now people live their lives by it because some dude in a field talking to his peas. But I guess the thought now is 20% of the world's 20% of the population makes 80% of the money.
Mm-hmm.
20% of the country in the U.S. drinks 80% of the alcohol.
Yep.
Some stuff like that. 20% of the podcasts probably get 80% of the listens.
Yes, exactly.
I just don't
20%
know.
of the sports teams win 80% of the games.
Is there a place where I can see this? Not that I don't trust Wilfredo.
You can see it all around you.
No, but
Ready?
like with
Here
numbers.
we go. Watch this in real time. Listeners and viewers, watch this. I'm being playful. Kev, this might not work for you because you're already doing this, so I need to
Alan.
use someone else.
Okay.
Your wife, Taryn,
Yes.
probably
Uh-huh.
wears 20% of her clothes 80% of the time.
20%, 80% of the time. I'd say that's probably fairly accurate.
Nice. Okay.
I wear
okay.
5% of my clothes 95% of the time, I would say.
Yeah, I know. You're doing the deeper of Pareto just out of pure laziness.
Yeah, I was gonna say this.
Yeah,
There's no strategy. In
this was not strategy.
I was like, I want to wear a long sleeve shirt today, and I was like, oh, I wore a long sleeve shirt 2 weeks ago. Where is that one? Ah, I know where it is. It's in the laundry basket. It's clean. That'll be the
Nice.
one.
Simple. He's a simpleton. I love it.
I am. Yeah, keep it
For
simple.
sure. Keep it simple. NLU listener, what is happening? I just wanted to jump in here and let you know if you want to get to the next level faster, we have a free virtual monthly meetup at the first Thursday of every month. You can connect with like-minded people and become a bigger part of this amazing global community. The link to register will be in the show notes. Kev, when he was in high school, what's the 20% I can do that gives me 80% of the results? Okay, the jacked guys get the girls. I'm going to get
That was
jacked.
it.
That was the end of the
That was
formula. End of equation.
Yeah, that's
Get
the
jacked,
20.
Take shirt off.
Most people don't mess with you because they assume you're a badass when even if you're not. I wasn't. I was like the friendliest person. Other than that message from that Facebook dude who messaged me and I said, all right, man, next time you see me, we're going to brawl. Okay, cool. I'm going to choke you unconscious then. He's like, oh, you trained, man? Okay, cool. I was a good dude. Just want to be a good person. That's it. That's all I have to say about that.
So you're doing the Pareto, so he's doing the deeper level of Pareto, and please don't get lost in the numbers, but I want to share this because this is my purpose, my poipus. So everyone out there think about Pareto. So 20% of your effort is producing 80% of the reward. So I used to, in relationships, very unintelligently, do a bunch of effort for things that my partner didn't really value that much. And in the past, the highest value for my partners was quality time, which was a huge concern because early entrepreneurs don't have time for quality time. And so I would try to do these other things to try to make up for the fact that I wasn't available, and they never worked. And then I would basically it would just suck. And so now Emilia and I have the top 3 cup fillers. So nature is by far number 1. When she always playful, she's like, "Thank you for taking me for a walk." It's you've got to get out in nature. Got to. It's quality time, but no stim quality time, like where we're just talking deep conversations, spending presence with the pets. And the third one is what? Adventure. Spontaneity. She calls it spontanitis. My camera's freaking out. Spontanitis is, it sounds like an illness. It's something we made up. You need spontaneity. So I'll just tell her to get in the car, and then we just go for the whole day. I've got cool things planned.
When's the last time that happened?
It's been a minute.
Same.
Been a minute. Q4, winter.
I got a little jealous when you said that because it's like, shit, he's beating me on that. I haven't done that in a hot minute. It's like, all right, hop in. We're at Starbucks. What do you want? What would you like?
Yeah, spontaneous, man. It's important.
It is important.
That's the 20% of things that produce 80% of Emilia's fulfillment in our relationship. Very important to know those things. Very important. And I have my 3, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Now, if you take the 20% of 20%, don't get lost in the numbers on this. If you take 20% of 20%, you get 4%.
Why would you take 20% of 20%?
You know how, because you get leverage. I'll explain leverage.
Please.
Everyone picture a huge boulder. It's stuck in a hole. You put a board underneath it.
Oh, boy.
I know. Physics.
Talk about the fulcrum here. Here we go.
You know
waiting to talk about a fulcrum.
Torque and the fulcrum. You can you explain how a crowbar works? I can't do this, man. Straight up, I can't do this.
So, man, not real. No, why would I be able to explain it?
It's not easy.
The way a crowbar is bent allows you to put more pressure on something than you would be able to without the bend.
Yeah, because of the torque,
Angle.
The equation in physics is the longer the radius, the way more the power, like the work that you can do. The point
Well,
is
think of
leverage.
this is a good one. This is a good one. Think of a what do people do? They run up not a
Pole vaulting.
pole vaulting.
This
You
is
can't-
atrocious.
You can't pole vault very far with a 4-foot
Yeah,
stick.
exactly.
But if you have a 14-foot stick, you can go a lot further.
Exactly.
That's actually not accurate at all because that has nothing to do with leverage. That's just like basic.
No, it
it's
does. It
longer, so
does.
you go further.
No, it does have to do with leverage. It does
Okay.
a little bit. Doesn't matter. Here, look, we're getting off it. Okay, why would you take 20% of 20%? You get
Yes.
4%.
Yeah.
The ratio there is so 20% of your effort produces 80% of the results. That's a 1-to-4 ratio, meaning you get 4 times the benefit for 1 times the effort. When you take 20% of 20%, it's 1/4 times 1/4. So now you get 1/16. Does that land?
It lands for me because I've heard you say this 1,000 times.
If you could put $1 in and get $16 out, that's
Yeah,
what
but
this is.
I think we need to talk more about like okay, cool. All right. Fitness. The 20%
Yeah.
is weight training.
Correct.
What's the 20% of the 20%?
Tracking
Hey.
calories.
Hey Google, turn off please.
Tracking calories.
For weight training.
Yes. Because the weight training doesn't get maximized unless you have the right nutrients.
Okay.
So if you're trying to build muscle, now this is the key. Okay, so you need to know your objective. If the objective is to build muscle, I'm going to talk about Kev. If Kev's objective is to build muscle, he's in a bulk right
Always.
now. You're in a bulk, right?
No, I'm in a cut.
All right. Well,
And
damn,
the fact that you couldn't recognize it is
Hey.
offensive to me.
well, that's why you're wearing a long sleeve. All right. Let's imagine he's in a bulk and he's trying to maximize muscle gain. That means that the 20% is weight training, consistent weight training. Boom. The 20% of 20%, which is the 4%, is being in a caloric surplus. Because let's say he weight trains really hard, but he doesn't have a caloric surplus, he's not going to build muscle. He doesn't have the building blocks to build the muscle. And the 20% of 20% of 20% in that case would be getting enough protein within those calories.
I got you.
And so the idea here is there's certain things that matter a fuck ton. And there's a few things that don't matter almost at all. There's a lot of things that don't matter almost at all, to be honest.
Yeah.
And that's why the book Essentialism, I think, is so powerful, because it's just Pareto. You and I recording this episode can impact hundreds, if not thousands, of people all over the world. That's leverage. Whereas we could be, I don't know, taking a nap. So if impact is the goal, taking a nap isn't leverage. This podcast is. However, the nap is good for your brain, which then makes you able to do more podcasting. So everything's a formula. I think one of the reasons people don't like me, seriously, is because of this. Everything's a formula.
It's always weird when you say that because it's like, do I defend you or do I agree with you?
I think it's okay.
Okay.
I don't want to say, yeah, I don't think people like me. Yeah, that's
I don't
fine.
think it's that they don't like you. I just think people can be made to feel uncomfortable. I don't think it's personal.
Do you think it's the formulaic thinking? Like everything's a math equation for me?
I think it's the fact that you don't do small talk at all. I was talking to somebody today about this. They said, what did they say exactly? It was something along the lines of, I don't go out and see people anymore. I feel like I don't know how to talk to people anymore. It's like, yeah, no, I understand. I said, when you start going on other podcasts a ton, it's going to change because you're literally meeting strangers daily. And at the beginning, depending on what it is, there's small talk and you're getting to know people and you're pitching and catching. I feel like you don't really small talk. So I think that's uncomfortable for people.
Yeah, we do sort of the, where are you from? Where are you hailing from? I'm in Mass. Okay, I'm in Pennsylvania. Oh, cool. I could throw a rock and hit you jokingly. And then let's get into it.
Mm.
You know what it is too? I don't like wasting time.
Yep.
And it might feel offensive when people feel like they're wasting your time.
Well, I think it's
or
the
you
priority.
make them feel like, yeah, exactly.
It's the priority of, it's just that. It's like if your thing is I don't want to waste time, and the other person is thinking like I don't really care if I waste. It's not a waste of time for me to talk to you about small talk. Then it's just not going to work.
Yeah, and it makes them feel less important, I think, and that's unfortunate. That's not my goal, of course. But at the end of the day, I realize that the more you learn what matters to you, self-awareness, back to Kevin's answer to this question, the less you want to waste time on things that are not meaningful. I want to have the most meaningful life possible. And I think the more narrow you get in where you invest your time and effort, I think the bigger impact you can actually have. It's fascinating. It's when you split the atom, you get the atom bomb. That metaphor, the more narrow my focus has become, the more impact I've been able to have in the world. And that's ultimately what I'm going for, is maximizing growth, contribution, and quality of life. And I think that when you do that, people can feel offended. Like people in my gym that want to, there's this one guy who is awesome. I mean, the pump cover guy, he's like, take off the pump cover, man. He's just a cheerleader. I love it. He's all about it. But he's always bidding for my attention. It's like, dude, I can't right now. Like, I appreciate you, but I'm focused, like hat down, you know? I don't want to be disrespectful, but also like, I can't. I'm sorry. I can't. I'm not here for that. I'm 45 minutes a day, every day. Like, I need to go home, right? Like, desperately. This is terrible. So I can see why that is. But I wonder too, and this is a question for you. How did you think before you thought in formulas? Like, how did you figure out what to do and what not to do?
I think the only things I really figured out were the things that I got lucky with, and then figured out what was under the luck. I experimented a lot. Again, fitness is always the best example for me, because that was really the only thing I ever really feel like I did. Now, again, my father took steroids, so that helps, right? I've never taken steroids, but my father did, so I feel like there's probably going to be some of them in me somewhere. I don't know if that's how it works. I don't know.
Naturally high test levels is what
I
he's
guess.
saying.
I guess.
Yeah. I don't know if that's because he took steroids, but maybe.
I mean, I would guess on it. It would make sense. But that's like the one thing where I remember I kind of decided I'm going to get in really good shape. And then I used to read magazines. I used to try a bunch of different stuff.
Yeah.
The 5x5, you do 5 reps of weight you can handle 5 times for 5 sets. Like, do that.
And the big 5, which is lat pull downs, squats, deadlifts,
bench press,
and then overhead press.
Yeah.
Those are the between those 5, you basically hit every muscle in the human body, other than core, but you still hit core and squats and all that.
I did that.
Yeah, 5x5 is good stuff.
5x5 was good stuff. I just tried a bunch of stuff. I was on bodybuilding forums all the time trying to figure out how to learn about bodybuilding and how to get stronger. And then it eventually became, this is what works best for me. And I still train essentially the same exact way I did when I was 16. Smarter, but I do a lot of the same. Like, I don't overcomplicate it. I do the same shit almost every time. That works for me. Maybe it doesn't work the same for you, but it came from me seeming like I got lucky with certain things and then saying, all right, let me double down on what seems like it worked. And then I started testing different versions of that. So kind of what you're saying, I figured out by luck what the 20% was that got me 80% of the results. And then I tinkered with the 20%. And then that was kind of the way I did it. Outside of that, I didn't really feel like I was in control of anything.
One of the reasons Kev gets so frustrated with the fitness industry is because they're not telling you the 20% that actually did it, which is the fact that they're on steroids.
Yeah. Name somebody in Hollywood. They most allegedly, they most likely have taken steroids.
Well, they're basically, and this is what we've done episodes on in the past, and I'll go quick with this, but Kev would say, hey, I'm going to sell you a course on the 3 quick steps to super boost your business into the multi-million-dollar, blah, blah, blah. What they're not telling you is the 20% of 20% of 20% of 20% that they did, which is basically lie. Like, I forgot to tell you that in order to actually do this, you have to lie and scam
sell
people.
out. Or a small investment from a family member. It's like, well, I was a millionaire long before this because I was in the family business, but this is also how you could. And just to edit what I said, many people in the action I'm not going to name names, but you go from playing like a high school teacher to, I don't know, Captain America, and you look completely different. I'm not saying that's the only way, but that is. The Rock is 55 years old. Right? Isn't he like 55 years old? Come on.
Man.
What are we doing here? It's just.
On
What are we doing here?
You think it's just hard work, or?
Yeah, I think he works very, very, very hard.
Yeah, and that's part of the equation for sure.
It's a big part of the equation. It is, but it's not the whole equation.
So back to the original point of this episode, because I know we do got to jump soon, is what's the one thing that if you took it out, 90% of your results go? And this is the last thing that I hope lands. There's a book I'm reading called Measure What Matters. Damn, I never know the authors' names.
I got you, man. I got you.
Measure What Matters. It's one of the original investors at Google, which apparently is 28 years ago, I think. And they did something called OKRs. And I playfully called them OK-Does, but objectives and key results. The reason why this Pareto principle is so powerful is because it creates leverage. The same amount of time and effort. And this is like, think about it. Everyone has the same amount of time in a day. How is it that an Oprah Winfrey has way more impact than Kev? Right? She's using her time and effort much more wisely for much longer than Kev was. And again, I'm just using that as some random person. But Kev is capable of that too, to some extent. He's different, blah, blah, blah. But like, for the most part. Okay. Here's the problem, Kev. If you don't know the specific objective, the 20% of 20% of 20% of 20% of 20% changes completely. So if your goal is to cut right now instead of to build muscle, let's say your objective is to maximize muscle loss. Maximize fat loss. Maximize fat loss. Everything changes. The whole formula changes. So the number one thing, in my opinion, for everyone out there, and this is what my coaching does, is clarity. If you don't have clarity on what you want, you cannot gain leverage. I want to be with Emilia. I want to marry Emilia. I want to be in love with Emilia. Okay, now I can leverage all the things that she values and I value every single day to make sure that that objective is consistently and sustainably attained. And in that's in the context of love. Okay, now health. Okay, I care about physique and holistic athletics. Okay, you can do a formula, but you can't do the formula. That's why I can't stand the quote, it's the journey, not the destination. Listen, the destination you choose in advance dictates the journey. If you want to be in the MLB, you better change everything right now to make sure that that actually happens. If you want to be a podcaster, immediately you have to change everything. I think my coaching comes down to inject clarity and certainty, then messy, massive action in between sessions, and then you get momentum and results, and then you come back for more clarity. And that it's a cycle that just runs. And that's all I'm really doing is injecting clarity every single session. And ironically, through a lot of uncertainty during the session of like who's what and what, so that's what this podcast does for everybody, I think, is we just keep giving people clarity, and unfortunately it's through the messy uncertainty.
Well, oftentimes the clarity comes from questioning everything. If you get off an episode where... Yeah. Well, I'm just saying, if you're watching or listening and you get off an episode, it's like, what the hell were they even talking about? If that's it, I don't know if anything's going to come from it. But if you sit with it for a while, something will come eventually. Mm-hmm. It's just a matter of sifting through it. John Dewar is the gentleman's name. All right. Next Level Nation, as you heard, Alan is taking new clients as we speak. So if you're looking for a strategy behind health, wealth, life, and love, you want to make more money, I feel like most people want to make more money. Alan can definitely help you with that. Dreamliners are on Amazon. What else? Next Level Nation, private Facebook group for amazing humans like you, filled with amazing humans like you. And make sure you're subscribed on whatever platform you are listening or watching this on so you never miss an opportunity to get to the next level. As always, we love you. We appreciate you. Grateful for each and every one of you. And at NLU, we do not have fans. We have family. We will talk to you all tomorrow.
Stay next level. Next Level Nation.